This is the first week of the offseason. We're on the weekend of the first offseason for Jets football. There's no game to preview. There's nothing to look at here for the New York Jets except to look back at what the New York Jets did or didn't do and try to prevent that from happening in 2024 because the Jets had playoff aspirations and Super Bowl hopes and all these things, and obviously didn't come anywhere close to any of those with a 7-10 season for the second straight year. But how can we prevent those things from happening? What are the key problems for the Jets? We have a brand new guest on the show that will be joining us weekly, and we have a thrilling first episode. But let's roll the footage. Let's go, baby. It's Saturday, and it's Boy Green Daily, and that starts now.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas. Good morning, everybody. Again, Paul Ashton Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, and it's Super Wildcard Weekend, and for the 13th year in a row, the Jets aren't there. But I don't have any bad feelings or anything about it. Our time will come. You know, all good things come to those who wait, or someone said once on a fortune cookie. Anywho, let's get to Boy Green Daily. And every Saturday moving forward, again, we have a brand new offseason schedule. Italy Jets. Ty Butler will join us every Sunday through the Super Bowl at ESPN 98.7. Got Domsey on Mondays with the mock drafts and things. But every Saturday will be an old show I used to do, but in a new way. Hop on Pop. My father will join us, someone who is actually a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, but, you know, he's paid attention to the Jets a lot because of my fandom with the team. So he provides an outside perspective on some of the Jets' issues and problems. And without further ado, let's welcome him in from the lovely state of New Hampshire. It is my father, Paul Esden Zone, live streaming here. Good morning, Father. How are you?
Good morning, son. Doing great. It's a beautiful day in sunny, snowy New Hampshire. We're expected to get about 18 more inches of the white stuff, and it'll be good. Hunkering down, shoveling, and watching some playoff football. That's when NFL teams go through the full season, and they are in the top 7 teams in their division. I just want to make sure I wasn't confusing you.
No, it's okay, and it's top 7 teams in the conference, not the division. But I understand what you're trying to say there, Father. That's okay. I get you. Yep, and the Cowboys were number 2 in that NFC conference, and they're welcoming the Green Bay Packers, which is a delectable plate that I imagine the Dallas Cowboys are going to eat for breakfast. I fully expect the Cowboys to win that game. They're dominant at home, and they get a 7 seed. I think Jordan Love, we'll get more into, I guess, all the NFL stuff a little bit later, but congratulations on your Cowboys making it to the playoffs, Pop. That's great. And we will, how this construct of the show will go, certainly through the playoffs, is we have a few Jets topics we'll get to. And by the end of the show, we'll give you guys some NFL predictions. We'll look through the wild card, so you'll be able to share your thoughts on the Cowboys game as well. And we'll go through in order. We got 2 games today, triple header on Sunday, and then plus the new thing that's been happening the last couple of years, the Monday Night Football game as well. But without further ado, Father, what we really need to get into is normally I'm guiding this ship. Normally I got a plan and we're going through, but obviously the Jets' plans haven't been working out, so maybe we should call an audible here at the line of scrimmage and try something fresh, try something new. So a Dr. Phil / Dr. Paul episode here of breaking down what the Jets need to fix to prevent 2023 from the repeat, the copy and paste. Because, again, Jet fans, I was watching some of the One Jets Drive this week. That's the Jets in-house documentary they do, and they're recapping that Patriot game, and then like looking ahead to 2024 and the expectations. And I was getting the chutzpah, I was getting the juice, I was getting back into it. Like, okay, we're back in this thing to do exactly what we're going to do the first time. So I ask you, Dad, as having someone who's an outside perspective, good morning from your wife and my mother. There she is, Michelle Anthony Esden. Normally I just call her Mom, but there you are. That's her name for those that were curious. Anywho, getting back to the point of this thing here, let me throw it to you here, Pop. What's your perspective on what you believe the Jets need to what your Jets need to fix? What the Jets need to fix?
Yeah, so just a quick background. As you can see, obviously in the picture and the logo, I do have Jets gear. I've been to Jets training camp 4 or 5 times when I was in Cortland. Jets games. So what I would say, it's good that I have the thing that I've never met a Jets fan that has. They are my second team, but I also live in the world of reality. And so I don't blame Jets fans for being where they're at. It has been 50 some odd years, although the anniversary just passed. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday. 55 years.
So it's the perspective, right? So the Jet fans always have to have hope, or why would you be fans? And then you just take it a little too far in some cases, the hope, the unrealistic expectations, like signing an aged, decrepit superstar and then assuming that you plug and play and he was going to win the Super Bowl this year. But anyways, I digress. So I would say the key things the Jets need to do, so we're not back here again, right? We're not back 7-10 or worse a year from now. And really, it breaks down to decisive leadership. That is what has to happen. And I'm not talking about on the field. I'm talking about, and I don't know who it is. I don't think Jets fans know what's going on here. But for example, I'll give a few examples. And then, so when a gap is identified, when we see there is a problem, or a problem is self-revealing, we are super slow to take decisive action, react. It was clear that offensive line was a problem back in training camp. It was clear that second or third preseason game, whatever it was clear. Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, the Panthers game. There was a viral moment on Hard Knocks. Yes.
So, and literally little to nothing was done about it, right? And so I'm okay with the philosophy that, you try several things, right? You go to a couple different directions. We're going to try and get, I'm going to say his name right, Collins, the one the Cowboys just signed. Like, there are offensive linemen out there.
Oh, La'el Collins, the Jets have worked him out a few times,
Yeah, right. But they didn't pull the trigger, right? So they had a problem identified in training camp, and here we are 4.5, 5 months later, and it never got really addressed, nor were they aggressive about going after it, right? And so you take that, and then you take where we were sitting after 4 plays in the season, right? We were sitting in Dallas doing this show, and I'm like, the Jets have to take action. They must go get a backup quarterback, right? And so, again, we went through, they scraped up a few people from the bottom of the barrel, even when there was better people available, like Simeon and this, whatever that scrub is, they signed from Seattle's practice squad that never saw
Brett Rippon, the son of Mark. Yes.
Yeah. So there's just examples, right, where they're slow to make positive changes, positive movements. And then the whole Zach Wilson fiasco, we bench him. And I'm not going to, we may touch on Salah in a minute, but the whole fiasco where, okay, he's done. Oh, wait, 5 minutes later, oh, he's our best option to start. It's just, they need to have a decision maker, right? And that may be who's responsible for drafting, right? And, and it really lends itself, this whole run it back thing that they're going to do. That's an example of bad decisions. That is a terrible decision. And I don't. We can probably next week talk about coaching and what they should do with their coaching staff. Not, but really, the ability to make decisions that impact going forward. They're check and adjustability, and maybe it's how they're set up on how those decisions happen. It's not in Salah's. Who's making them? It's not clear.
Yeah, there's one thing I would just like to follow up. We'll see. I'll put in the request to speak to Robert Saleh this offseason on one of these shows. We'll see if he accepts that. I'd love to speak with him because one thing to me that I just keep struggling with, and I don't understand, and the proper follow-up hasn't been asked to Saleh. It's been close. I thought we were going to get it on his final interview on the Michael Kay show. He does a weekly on ESPN radio here in New York. And I thought that's where we were going to get, but they were one follow-up question too short. So they ask about Zach Wilson, and they say that the plan was Aaron Rodgers is starter, Zach Wilson watches him all year. 4 plays in, okay, Aaron Rodgers goes down, Zach Wilson's now the guy. But if they were dedicated, the Jets were dedicated to the redshirt year that they admit, looking backwards, they should have given him initially. But why didn't you give him that then? Because you could have, after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. I understand what happened in week 1. You can't prevent. Fine. Because they refused to sign a quarterback before then. But after Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, you bring in a veteran quarterback. You probably should have done that from the get-go anyway. But you bring in a veteran quarterback and still allow Zach Wilson to have that redshirt year. If you committed to the redshirt year, which the Jets say they were going to for this upcoming season, or the season that passed, obviously. If you were committing to that, why wouldn't you stick with that? What would have changed from watching Aaron Rodgers through a training camp or preseason? That's a part where I'll tell you, you mentioned sometimes we drink too much of the Kool-Aid, right? After Aaron Rodgers went down and then the Jets sell the bill of goods. No. This is Zach Wilson's team. I'm like, oh, phenomenal. Maybe he gathered enough from the osmosis process during the offseason. They got just enough Aaron Rodgers sprinkle where he's back. He's back and better than ever, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. How could spending 3 weeks with, if you put in a fridge, right, a plate of rotten fruit next to a plate of filet mignon, just because they kind of hung around each other in the fridge for a while, doesn't mean I'm like, well, maybe this rotten food tastes like filet mignon now and take a bite into it. So that's the thing that I wish I could ask Saleh and Douglas of, okay, if he was committed to the redshirt year, they being for Zach Wilson, why didn't Aaron Rodgers change that plan? You could have still done that. You could have brought in Carson Wentz as one of the options who looked pretty good at the end for the Rams as the backup for Stafford, or insert any available option or trade that they could have done. That's the part that frustrates me because they alternated that plan, just said, yeah, you know what? I'm sure Zach Wilson will be fine. And that's a pretty we spoke about gaps earlier. That's a large gap. That's a large leap of faith to make in terms of difference of understanding from the beginning of the year to that shift to like, let's ride it. And then screwing up an entire season. All these, the defense, Sauce Gardner, Brees Hall, all these young cats that now an entire year gets exploded because they miscalculated with the backup quarterback position pretty royally. That's my follow-up question. I wish I could ask Saleh or Douglas for that matter to truly understand that thought process.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that because
Okay.
I've heard you say this a couple times,
Okay.
and you couldn't be more wrong. Or the way that you think about it is startling to somebody that has my point of view, and I'll explain. Right.
Okay.
The only reason we talked about this at the end of last season, we talked about that truly the only reason they kept Zach Wilson was because of his rookie contract. And they were kind of hamstrung by it. That actually ties into my feeling that the organization can't make a decision. Just for the record, this is the National Football League. Zach Wilson was the number 2 pick in the highest profile draft in the world. And what you just said, in his 3rd season, he needed a red shirt. And only a Jets fan would think that, say that, or feel that. He should have been, you're the number 2 pick. You hit the field and you play freaking football, right? And the fact that in year 3, after multiple starts, right, he needs to sit behind somebody else. No, he needs to sit at the bus stop when he's on his way to pick up his food stamps. He is terrible. Wow. You get what you get with him. And he had spots of brilliance, right? He is a subpar average quarterback. He is as developed as he is capable of getting with this team. Would he be different with a different offensive line? Would it be different with a different coaching staff? Wishes or fishes. He's here now. He's peaked out, and they should have cut him last year and eaten the cap space, right? But the concept that he gets a red shirt year, that's ludicrous.
Well, the plan is to trade him. That is what we've heard from rumors and reports. Apparently, according to a local newspaper that broke it a couple weeks left in the season, the Deseret News, that Zach Wilson was told that he will be dealt in the offseason. Joe Douglas wasn't as forthright during his end-of-season press conference a couple days ago, but he said, hey, if they call, we'll pick up the phone. So it looks like he will be moved, and former NFL general manager Randy Mueller was a little more rich in his trade evaluation for Zach. He believes the Jets could get a fifth. Some people believe it's a sixth or seventh. But again, the big part of the puzzle is how much of the money are they able to ship off to another team? If a team takes him as is, the Jets will save $5.5 million off the cap. If they cut him, they lose $11 million in dead cap with no savings. So they really need to trade him and to be able to negotiate that piece, because that could be Jets, will you eat a little bit more of the cap, perhaps for a better draft pick, and then the team, gets Wilson. So there's some pieces to figure out here over the next couple of weeks ahead of the new league year in March.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to retort, before I retort to have a comment about that, I'd like to say hello to Haley, who's watching as well. So hello, Haley. That's my daughter. But
yes, just to clarify.
So I would tell you that it'll be very, in my opinion,
okay.
I'm not a GM or former thing. It is going to be almost impossible to move Zach Wilson because everybody knows what the story is. Everybody's seen his body of work. Everybody knows that it's a situation that the Jets need to trade him or likely cut him. And so why would I give you anything? Why would, I'll give you the round that doesn't exist conditional pick or a player to be named later or a pack of big league chew, because everyone would realize that they're just doing the Jets a favor to try and help their salary cap. So why would they? Because does it look appealing what he's brought to the table so far? A couple flashes here and there, but
right.
I'm just saying there's no negotiating power for the Jets. That's my point.
Yeah, the only thing I would throw in, and this was based off a few of the insiders around the league that seemed to say this, following that Texans game, which was the best game of his career, although you could argue that all 30 points came in the second half. It was 0-0 at halftime, and then he just exploded. And then all of a sudden, it was a singular half, which I could understand how someone would nitpick and say, wow, we're going to draw all of that from a half. But kind of what Randy said, I'm sure, is what other people are going to say. And I hate that it's this way, but it is what it is. Well, that's the Jets. So the half of brilliance, ooh, there's something there. But he's been screwed up basically because of the Jets. And Randy said, no offense. So when he said that, or with all due respect, so I guess technically he was allowed to insult me, my mother, and my family as soon as he said with all due respect. So I guess Dems to rules, as they say. But it's basically that there's the Jets thing. So from that perspective, that some other team will have that save it mentality. They're only screwed up because of the environment they're in a general sense, but we're talking about Zach Wilson. Thus, if we bring him into our facilities as a QB2-3, I think he'd be QB3 battling for a QB2 gig, depending on potentially where he landed. The spotlight's off. He's shown a little chutzpah, but the Jets have screwed up quarterbacks for a long time. Co said it in here on the Facebook page. The Jets, unfortunately, it is what it is. And it is sad, as Co mentioned, but there is a rich history in a row of Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold's, Geno Smith's, all these guys, Bryce Petty's, and everyone else in a row of either the quarterbacks have sucked or the Jets have been terrible or both. And that has resulted in really bad situations. So that's another factor, another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, just on this, right? It goes back again to my theme of decision making, right? They should have, they went all in on Aaron Rodgers, which is probably a conversation for another week's show. And they make a decision, then they're hamstrung by that decision, which I think they've done with Aaron Rodgers. But there were opportunities this year to get creative, to pull in people almost seemingly at zero or no cost. They could have Trey Lance, and we won't go through the litany of other backup quarterbacks that were available, right? But they ended up in the end of the year with literally, they had the worst quarterback room in the NFL, and maybe even in the XFL. It was bad, right? And they had people, and they started people that no one had ever heard of before. Simeon, or however you pronounce his name.
Tim Boyle. Yes. Yeah.
Tim Boyle. Like, these are bad quarterbacks. And they had the Minshews. If they had acted early, these people, Minshew would have been available for a reasonable pick. Trey Lance, talk to the future, would have been available. There's an example of hiring somebody to redshirt. You bring Trey Lance in, for the Cowboys got him for a fourth or fifth. I'm glad that you didn't.
It's a fourth. Yeah.
Got him for a fourth round pick, which is somebody that may not even make the team. That's an never well for literally a valuable draft pick. That's why, again, if you tie it back, I don't think the Jets get a fifth, because Trey Lance's body of work is, the 49ers really kind of jacked it up. So we really don't know what you have, but you're pretty sure what you have with Zach Wilson.
Perhaps, yeah, that's what I would say. Trey Lance has shown nothing, so it's the mystery box, I guess, strategy of, well, we don't really know. He's just been injured a lot, and we haven't really seen. So, all right, that fourth round pick. And Zach Wilson, you've seen a lot, which, again, someone just said he's rated, I think it was Matthias, he's 32 out of 32 quarterbacks. Perhaps it's beyond the Jets, but, all his statistics since entering the league is like 187th out of all these guys. Like, it's not good. It's not good. It's terrible, as a matter of fact. But, again, we'll see. We'll see what the Zach Wilson situation ends up being. There's still a lot to figure out from that perspective. So Jets problems. Let me ask you this before we finish off with some Super Wildcard Weekend thoughts. Do you think some of the things that you diagnosed here, and let me add in the quarterback thing. I was wrong. Last offseason, the Gardner Minshews of the world didn't really rev my engine. The history, and I just thought it was fluky. He has like this cult-like Uncle Rico, Napoleon Dynamite. You want to see me throw this football over that mountain over there? He had that whole vibe about him. Like, there's just I don't know what the word is to describe it, but I just wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm like, I just don't see it. And, truth be told, he had the Colts in a win-and-you're-in playoff game in the final game of the season, being there mostly the entire year after Anthony Richardson got hurt. So I was wrong on the quarterback valuation. I'm dating back to free agency, not even talking about in season. So obviously on the first day of free agency, the Jets have to go to whoever their quarterback of choice is. There's a lot of them out there, Jacoby, but we're doing actually an episode on that on Tuesday with Boy Green meets Woody, assessing all the quarterbacks that will be available. And we're going to both pick one, but there's Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and a million guys out there. And what the Jets need to do on the first day of free agency is hand a blank check and make insert guy of their choice the highest paid backup quarterback in NFL history. And that's got to be the number one thing they do, which isn't, it sounds crazy on the surface, but it isn't crazy in money. It's not like it's $40 million a year, but just to do that okay, boom, have that locked in. We know who QB2 is. So we'll be diving more in that. But again, I just have to admit right from the get-go that we messed that one up. Is there anything else you want to finish off with Jets-wise before we get our all NFL thoughts in?
Yeah, no, I think it's another complete thing to talk about the next level down. So the decision makers are making bad decisions, and then the coaching is completely another can of worms for another day. But no, I think they need to be aggressive but not ridiculous, right? Okay. And take those steps, right? When you could have had Wentz, you could have had Matt Ryan, you could have had Flacco, right? Because what you're looking for is a Band-Aid, not open heart surgery. So be more decisive, and now is the time to do it.
Yes, and again, that offensive line, you were preaching to the gospel here with all the fans. Wow, Boy Green's dad for GM. You have turned Jet fans around. I know seem to have a very love-hate relationship over some of our visits. So it's great that you're back in it with what you were able to present. All right, so let's go through Super Wildcard Weekend, guys. We'll give our NFL predictions for the playoff games. Got a pair of games today. We'll run you through it. Cleveland is in Houston. That's 4:30. That'll be the NBC game. Cleveland is now a 1.5-point favorite, so the line has shrunk a little bit, but Cleveland is a favorite on the road in Houston. Houston, of course, backdoor winning the AFC South title after the Jaguars blew it on Sunday. So they host the game, but Cleveland's a favorite with Joe Flacco and C.J. Stroud playing. Father, I'll throw it over to you. Where are you leaning here?
Yeah, this is really easy for me. I'll break
Okay.
it down pretty simply. I'll actually tie it right into the Jets, right?
Okay.
So a good defense
Okay.
is going to stymie C.J. Stroud, right? The Browns have a good defense, right? They will shut him down. A below average quarterback can light up the Texans defense. Flacco is better than that. And so it's clearly going to be the Browns for the win. I can't even imagine why it's 1.5 point favorites. I would think it'd at least be a touchdown.
Yeah, see, my thing here is that everyone is on Cleveland. It's this popular thing in the world, and maybe it's popular because it's just right, to your point. And in the court of public opinion, I've heard that exact take that you've had. Maybe yours is a bit more juiced up, but again, basically that same take that Cleveland should be favored. The Flacco-sance, as it's being called, and Joe Flacco kind of taking over. Too many people are on Cleveland for that reason, and the fact C.J. Stroud has been spectacular. I mean, one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen. The statistical production has been intense. Of course, he obviously missed a handful of games with the concussion, courtesy of the Jets at the end of that game, unfortunately. But they're an exciting team. D'Amico Ryans, C.J. Stroud. Maybe they're a year too early in this acceleration process, but I'm going to take a chance on the kid, and they're at home. I'm really intrigued to see how he responds to this. Again, he's a young kid. We don't know. He's 21 years old, 22 years old. He's going to get his first chance at the playoffs. We've never seen him in the playoffs before. I'll take the wild card route. I will take Houston at home. I like that as a home underdog. Give me that to start off the show. I like that as well. All right, let's go to the other game. This is the night game, and this is going to make a lot of people angry. It's the 8 o'clock game exclusively on Peacock. So Peacock people better have your phone representatives ready for this one because people are going to be, where are they? It's not on my TV. I don't understand this action. The NFL says streaming is part of the future. So they said, hey, this may be the first game in terms of playoffs, but it's coming hot and heavy. Miami traveling to Kansas City. It's 8 o'clock again, exclusively on Peacock. Kansas City currently is a 4.5 point favorite. The game time temperature is expected to be -4. Wow. And that is not attributing wind chill, which was -25 the last time I saw it. Jesus. I'm glad I'll be watching this from the lovely confines of my very warm living room. So Dolphins Chiefs, where are you leaning here, Pat?
Yeah, so both of these teams have been erratic at best this year.
Yeah.
And really, the Chiefs are there's two teams this year that are acting like the Minnesota Vikings of last year. One of that is Kansas City, another one's the Eagles. And so this one's really hard. I think it's going to be the home field advantage. If it was in Miami, it may be different. This is, to me, one of the toss-up games, despite the line. But if it's in Miami, I might be picking Miami. But as it is, coming off the loss against the Bills in the cold again, I think that the Chiefs will win this going away.
I just have to say, someone tweeted this out. I thought it was funny. So, sometimes they'll say, cold weather. Oh boy, the home team has the advantage. Okay. Again, what was that? -4 tonight. I don't think anyone has an advantage unless all 53 members of the Chiefs were raised in Antarctica and they were, training Siberian Huskies from the womb. I don't understand what advantage they would have over the Miami Dolphins. Sure, Miami, hotter. Yeah, I get it. In Kansas City, actually, if you really think about it, in terms of the extreme of temperatures, it gets wicked hot and humid during the summers, and then it gets incredibly cold. And you have tornadoes that get sprinkled in. Man, God really picked a place on the planet where it's just like, hey, let me throw you a couple curveballs, people in Kansas City. But I just want to make sure that's clear. That again, Kansas City, I guess a little more an advantage of Miami, but come on, it's -4 degrees. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that, and I know you haven't made your pick yet, but right, people in Kansas City go outside. They live there at least half the year to go to the facility, whereas Miami. So I would tell you that there is some advantage. I agree. When you get that cold, it impacts everybody.
Yeah, so same thing. I guess the question is this, because we'll have the same conversation for the Monday night game. Are the Chiefs just going to flip a switch? Because they've looked like garbage through the back half of the year. Okay, they won the random game against the Chiefs, but it was Blaine Gabbert and Easton Stick or whoever the hell was playing quarterback. That doesn't count. So, like, the Chiefs have lost a lot of games. They haven't looked like themselves, but obviously they have championship moxie. Patrick Mahomes has a pair of Super Bowl rings on his finger. Can he just suddenly figure it out in the playoffs? And then this Miami team is totally unproven. They haven't won a playoff game in 21 years. And someone said, because obviously there's Jet fans watching this, so like I don't know who to root for. I mean, personally, I want the Dolphins to lose because I want that playoff-less, winless streak to continue. I go back and forth here. I picked on the radio show. I picked Miami with the spread. We're picking these games straight up. I'll take the Chiefs at home. The championship moxie, I'll trust that over the Miami Dolphins situation. Plus, they have a lot of injuries we're monitoring that we don't have all of that intel yet. At least I don't at this point. So I will also take the Chiefs. Take the Chiefs. All right, let's go to the triple header, Sunday football. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. Bills, what a friggin' draw, you bastards. Okay, you get into the playoffs in the final week of the season, you get Pittsburgh. All right, let me just make this pick as quickly as possible. Buffalo, by the way, is a 9.5-point favorite at home. They will annihilate the Pittsburgh Steelers. The ultimate participation trophy team. We've had 17 in a row winning seasons. You haven't won a playoff game since 2016. That was 8 years ago. That was back in my 20s. Good times. Hell no. Pittsburgh, you're getting crushed, man. And no TJ Watt. They're 1-10 when they don't have TJ Watt. Let's just kind of mark it in. Let's 1-11. That's what it is. Losers. Pittsburgh stinks. Mason Rudolph. Okay, it's January 13th. Put up the Christmas gear. It's over, pal. Pittsburgh. Done so. Pop, what do you think?
Yeah, it's clearly the Bills. But this is an opportunity, really, for Josh Allen. Is it going to be he comes out and shows, or is it going to be the Josh Allen turnover machine? And either way they win it. But this is right. This is their running start for the playoffs. For a deep run, and if they bumble it, they'll win this game even bumbling along. But it could set up what's going to happen in game 2. That's what I see.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll see. We had this mentioned by our Buffalo Bills insider that there have been some blowouts. Like the latest game was the Bills blowing out the Pittsburgh Steelers 38-3. There have been a couple games weirdly over the last couple where Pittsburgh has won a bunch in a row because they had dominated this series up until, again, they don't play all the time. They had dominated this series for a while, and then they've had some weird games back and forth. So that Bills insider had some heebie-jeebies about Pittsburgh because, the iconicness of their franchise and everything else. But I think no worries here. They win, and then we'll see, obviously, what happens with the rest of the playoffs to see who they play. And this game, I'm sure, circled for old Pop here. 4:25 on Fox. By the way, of course, Steelers Bills is on CBS to clarify that. But Fox, 2 iconic franchises, a game I am very much looking forward to. Packers, Cowboys in Dallas, 4:30, AT&T Stadium. Dallas is now down to a touchdown favorite. That line has shifted throughout the week, hovering between 7 and 7.5 from the lines that I've seen. They're a touchdown favorite at home. All right, Cowboys fan, let's go right to you. The Mike McCarthy revenge game, playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, this is really the Packers are a good story, a feel-good story, a little like Flacco, maybe a bigger story if Flacco wasn't around. But I'm going to give a few references based on so everyone can get the picture of what I'm trying to put in. Okay. This is going to be like American History X when he chased the guy out of his home, right? Ooh. This is going to be like Tony Soprano when he went after the guy that tried to go after Meadow and was making innuendos on Meadow, right? There's going to be a curb stomp. Mike McCarthy is going to look in the cuff of his pants on Tuesday and find a tooth, right? So this is the opportunity for Dallas to stomp Green Bay. It should not be close. Dallas occasionally plays games like this, very close, very nail-biting, right? And this is a time to put the pedal to the metal. If there was a risk, it would be the Cowboys' run-stop defense. They have one of the best secondaries in the league, even without a Pro Bowler that never played a snap this year with Diggs. So it's definitely the Cowboys. If I had money laying around here, a pile of stacks of money like Tony Soprano, I would put it on the 7 points with the Cowboys at home. But definitely Cowboys win and get ready to shut everybody up about Detroit and their 2-point whiny. Follow the rules. That's all I have to say to Detroit fans. Follow the rules. Curb stomp Cowboys. Lock it in.
Okay, well, before I give my answer, I'm surprised we haven't done this yet. Almost a virtual handshake between us. Hey, the 2 first-team All-Pro corners outside are coming right from these 2 guys, Sauce Gardner and Deron Bland. Okay, not too shabby. All right, there you go. There's your 2 corners. One had 9 picks and led the league. One had 0. But you know what? Quality over quantity. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, there you go. Your 2 All-Pro corners, first team.
It definitely
Very
makes
nice.
sense if you don't think about it.
Although this isn't the first time this has happened, but it's the first time in a long time. I don't know if you knew this, Pop. So, of course, Dak Prescott, you knew this one, that Dak Prescott, of course, led the NFL in passing touchdowns. So he was number 1. Jordan Love, number 2. So you have the top 2 passing touchdown getters this season facing off in this game. So my thing is that I saw the Vikings game at the end of the season where Jordan Love was throwing all over the place in prime time. You're like, whoa, look at this guy just winging it all over the place. And more times than not, it landed in touchdown arms. I just feel like a opportunistic Cowboys defense with the Jordan Love going YOLO and kind of chucking it around the ball yard because he's willing to take shots. But this Cowboys defense wants you to take shots for 2 reasons. First off, if you're taking shots, it takes time for those long developing plays. Micah Parsons and the Cowboys defense is all about that. And then number 2, the opportunistic secondary on that back end, like Deron Bland, who are going to be hunting those footballs. So I think it should be an exciting game. Again, iconic franchise. That's something I always love to see. We've seen a lot of historic games between the Cowboys and Packers throughout history. I won't be bringing any of those up at this point for some of the questionable calls that may have happened in some of those, but that's neither here nor there. I'm with you. I think the Cowboys ultimately blow out the Packers. I think it's fun, a little back and forth for a little while, and then ultimately, cream rises, macho man, going through all that, the popsicles and the creams and the pops and all that action happening. I do believe the Cowboys reign supreme and they win this one, which takes me to my favorite game of the weekend. This one is on NBC.
I'm sorry, before we segue to that, just real quick. I want to talk about the biggest travesty in the NFL this year. Okay?
Wow. Do tell.
The biggest travesty, and it is so blatant. It's so blatant. And I don't know something. I'm not joking at all. Okay.
Oh, so you must be talking about the Lions reporting thing, right?
Yeah. No, I am talking about there has not been a holding penalty called on Micah Parsons. It happens 8 or 10 times a game where he's had been an offensive lineman. He has not had a holding penalty called in his favor in 10 games. And it is mind-boggling. You see him getting mugged on every play by 2 people. Oh, that guy's too fast. Oh, let me get him. And it just really, because his sack total, we wouldn't be talking about Watt, right? Micah Parsons, right? They call those. Eventually, you're not going to hold them anymore, and he's going to get through. He would have had in over 20 sacks easily if they called holding penalties on the offensive lineman against him. So hopefully they snap out of it. So I apologize, sir.
No, that's okay. I see Jared B mentioned we need the merch coffee mugs. Actually, if you go into my About section on YouTube, we have a Boy Green shop. I have to update some new gear, but if you'd like your coffee mugs, feel free. Feel free to hop in on that. That is in the About section there on the YouTube channel for our little shop. Feel free. Like I said, we'll have to put in some new gear. There's been some wild sayings and things on this show. We'll have to put some of those on there. All right, let's get to the, this will be the Sunday night game, and I love it. Rams Lions, have this one circled. All the revenge angles, Jared Goff to, Matthew Stafford coming back and all that jazz. It should be a lot of fun. Lions are now a 3-point favorite. That line, like I said, has shifted a few times throughout the week. This one's Ford Field. Detroit, Rams are 6 seed. The Lions are the 3 seed. A lot of intrigue here for the revenge factors and all these other things. Again, this one will be on NBC, so you guys can cross-market this if you will as well, and feel free to check those out. But Rams Lions. Pop, let me throw it over to you as our lead Detroit Lions expert in things on all things Lions. One pride, as they say. What were you leaning here?
Yeah, I think this will be one of the better games of the weekend, maybe the best game of the
Okay.
weekend. And I think the Rams have really had to surge lately. But I think Dan Campbell, the Lions are not dorking around. They're going to take care of business. And I think they win this one by more than a touchdown. And the Rams are a dangerous team. Both these teams are people you don't want to face in the NFC. But I clearly think that the Lions win. And I want the Lions to win. I want them to win, and I want them to come to Dallas so they can shut the blank up about that 2-point conversion. And one thing on that, because we're here, the Cowboys had 23 seconds left and 2 timeouts when they went for 2 the first time, with the best kicker in the NFL who can make it from 70 yards. So shut up.
Very nice. So I'm looking forward to that. I will also say this for Dallas, and maybe you won't like this, but I think another part of the Dallas puzzle, again, back in the old days, the 2 seed gave you a bye. That does not anymore. Although apparently with the blowout win over the Packers, that might as well be a bye for the Dallas Cowboys, but I digress. That a 2 seed guarantees that the only way the Dallas Cowboys sees the San Francisco 49ers is in the NFC Championship game, being the 2 seed. So we will see if that's what it ends up being in there. Then we will get that matchup in the NFC title game, which, again, I think we've seen a few times in history. So that would be a lot of fun, potentially, to get to that one. I think this one's going to be wildly entertaining. I also think, speaking of San Francisco, I don't think they want to see old Matthew Stafford. If Cowboys take care of business, take out the 7 seed, and the Rams win, that means the Rams are going to San Francisco. For those who don't understand the NFL rules, the lowest seed is guaranteed to play the 1 seed in the next round. So it's not one of those tournament brackets they automatically play whoever they play. It is a reseeding that occurs. So that will go to San Francisco. And I think that's the one team San Francisco does not want to see, a divisional opponent for a 3rd time. I know they've dominated the series and all that jazz. Okay. But, recently winners of like 9 of 10 or whatever it's been, but I don't think you want to see that. I don't think you want to see that. So, just want to throw that out there. Anywho, compelling game. I've gone back and forth on this. I'm rooting for Lions fans because Lions fans are like Jet fans. They're lovable losers. They won their division for the first time in 30 years. I hope the Jets next year are the team that's won it for the first time in 20-something years to their AFC. So I'm rooting for them on that end because, honestly, I want to see that rematch, Cowboys, Lions in Dallas. That would be juicy, certainly. But I think the Rams actually are going to pull off the upset. I think Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit. The Rams are a hot team right now. All of that gives me the Rams. I know our broadcast partner, Evan Stockton of the Syracuse Mets, we had on the radio show yesterday, diehard Lions fan, is going to angrily text me here shortly, but it is what it is. We're going to call the games how we see them. I believe the Rams pull off the upset of Matthew Stafford. And poor Lions fans, we got a home playoff game. This is phenomenal. Wait, who's coming in? Matthew Stafford, our number 1 pick. Boy, that's incredibly unfortunate. Although it's funny, all the Cowboys connections are right. So the Lions had to go 0-16 in that season to get the right to draft Matthew Stafford. And you'll remember, Dad, who was the defensive coordinator before Dan Quinn? What was his name? Rod Marinelli, right?
That's right.
That was him who was the Lions head coach and all the connective tissue. So we'll see what happens there. But poor Lions fans, because that's what's going to happen. So let's go to Monday Night Football, the final game of Super Wildcard Weekend. The Philadelphia Eagles are a 3-point favorite in Tampa Bay. They were at 1 point 10-1, and then they fell to 11-6. They're in the playoffs. They're the 5 seed. They're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's Monday Night Football. That'll be on ESPN, ABC, ESPN Plus for those who want to check it out. And I bring up the same question that I did for the Chiefs game, and it's this. Do you believe the Eagles can flip a switch? Obviously, they've looked like garbage the last bunch of games. Got blown out by the Giants, whatever that is. But 1-5 down the stretch, like they've looked terrible. But in the same way with the Chiefs, is this just a team that flips a light switch and was the NFC representative in the Super Bowl last year? Is there that team? Or Baker Mayfield, who unfortunately they looked a little spotty the last 2 games of the year. But for parts, he's been wildly exciting with some of his big-time plays. So I will go to you, NFC East representative, to discuss this game. I think that's a question, though, people have to ask themselves about this, is whether or not they believe the Eagles can flip a switch or they're just not playing well and not very good right now.
Yeah, this is really hard because I'll tell you that the only game the Eagles won in the past 6 games, I believe, was against the Cowboys.
Yeah,
and
let me double check that.
it took a CD Lamb fumbling as he's going into the end zone, which, by the way, that rule needs to change yesterday. No, excuse me, that was the fullback on the goal line. Fullback on the goal, he fumbles on the goal line. The break, did he score? Did he not score? Well, how about you pay attention that the Cowboy was getting tackled before the ball got there, and then the Dak Prescott missed 2-point conversion. So all that being said,
Just real quick, that was actually the Giants game. You're thinking way too far back. That
okay.
Cowboys, because the one that they ended up winning against the Cowboys at 28-23 was way back in early November. That was November 5th. So the one win that they've had in this big stretch is a home game against the Giants, which, by the way, they almost lost, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah.
Okay.
But
yeah, so the Eagles they're the second team that are like the Vikings of last year. They're finding unique ways to win when they really shouldn't. It's hard to pick them. You get the Bucks, who they actually had to go to therapy this week because the last time they played a Monday Night Football game in the playoffs, similar to the Jets sending out Bill Belichick with the defeat of his last game as the Patriots, Tom Brady got beat, in the words of Boy Green, with a rusty wrench on national television by the Dallas Cowboys on this Monday night game last year. So I don't know why they picked this game as I don't know how they have the picks for who gets what game, right? Yeah. This is a game that is a toss-up, but not because the two good teams playing. So this could be the two worst teams right now in a game of this entire playoff season. So this is a really tough one. My heart tells me the Bucks. My thoughts are reality is the Bucks just probably are not good enough, even with a bad Philadelphia Eagles team. So I am leaning towards the Eagles at this time.
As am I. I just think there will be a little bit of a switch flipped. I believe that. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I believe I picked Kansas City earlier, and I'm picking Philly here. As teams said, okay, they're just going to figure it out. And they're going, and then we'll see what happens after that. I can't, guarantee matchup and everything else that will happen. But I am leading in that direction let's just kind of see what these two teams do. I heard it explained. I'm a big fan of the Rich Eisen show. So we're talking about some of the broadcast, how it kind of gets divvied up. And apparently the streaming only that everyone hates on Saturday night, I'm seeing a lot of comments about that, but the streaming only, they had to give them the game of choice. So in their case, it ended up being Chiefs Dolphins, which was the section one. They wanted it to be like again, let's be honest, if Eagles Bucks was a stream only, some people were like, oh, thank God, I don't have to watch that. Phenomenal. But I think that was that one. And then also I think that's the NBC one, which was basically the ugly stepsister. They're the same thing. But the MZC one was the Rams Lions. They really wanted that one. So they're trying to do ESPN, I guess, the solid, or not the solid, but like they got the last ring of the dance. Someone has to. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. Someone's got to, again, fall at the back end of that. Apparently ESPN did that. So I guess the other two won their bid, so to speak. It's a very complicated way to explain it, but they had to get theirs for the streaming to be a success, and then NBC won that other one for the Lions-Rams game, which I found entertaining. So, hey, man, someone's got to lose. This game is the least appealing to me, but hopefully, you get surprised in the playoffs with the game you weren't expecting. So I'm hoping that's the case. Like there was a Titans-Chiefs game a couple of years ago where Marcus Mariota came back for the Tennessee Titans against the Chiefs in Kansas City. I was like, whoa, okay. I didn't think this was going to be a game, and it surprisingly gives you a game. So fingers crossed. That's what I'm hoping for that one. All right, Father, that's a long show, but we appreciate it. A good Jets talk, some NFL talk, but obviously we're getting less games as we continue on here in this single elimination March Madness tournament here. So even less games to discuss in the future. It seems like a lot of people really dug this combination of Jets and NFL. We had solid numbers throughout the entire show. So, guys, whether you watch live or after the fact, make sure you hit that thumbs up and also hit subscribe. Looking forward to it. I've been talking with Ashton Davis, the New York Jets defensive back. We should have him on the show for the first time here coming up in the next week or two as he wraps up his end of season business. So I'm looking forward to that one. Plus, Randy Miller, the former NFL GM, he mocked the Jets offseason with some big questions. Hopefully, you guys could check that out as well. There's also shorter clips if you guys would like to check out some of those on the YouTube video section as well. Pop, I'm looking forward to these every Saturday. This is we'll do this throughout the offseason to get your unique perspective on all things New York Jets, and I think the fans really dig it. So thanks.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. We've done things like this since back when you were in college, so it's always been great times to participate in you as you're living the dream. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I thought I'd squeeze you in, Pap. You know, I'm that kind of guy where I give back to the fam and do that sort of thing. So that's the kind of guy I am. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Again, Ty Butler will be on tomorrow, and he will be with us through the Super Bowl with his ESPN schedule. So looking forward to that conversation tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy the pair of games here on Super Wildcard Weekend. We'll be back tomorrow to talk, I'm sure, a little bit about the triple header. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you.